Best catchers in MLB The Show 21. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is Hopeful Chewbacca back to the Church of Chewbacca, and today we're going to go over the top 5 catchers in MLB The Show 21 as of July 11th. I get tomorrow a bunch of Team Affinity All-Star players are going to come out. There could be a catcher that makes the top 5 list, and when we're talking about catchers, we are talking about primary position catchers only. There are 2 guys at the end of the video that I will mention after the top 5 that are probably somewhere on the top 5 list. One of the guys might be the best option at catcher, but that's not his primary position, so he's not eligible for this list, unfortunately. And I think a lot of you guys know who that guy is. But looking at this, let's go over the top 5. I got a couple honorable mentions, and then at the very end, stay around for the 2 guys that have catcher as their secondary positions. That would probably be in the top 5. One for sure is definitely in the top 2, if not the number 1 catcher in the game. The other guy would be iffy of making the top 5, but he's still a viable catcher at this point in the game. Let's get into it. Honorable mentions. The first honorable mention that I have here is Johnny Bench, the 94 overall, 1979 second half player. Right-handed throwing, right-handed batting, can play first base and third base as well. The thing about him is he is great defensively. He's going to be a diamond defensive catcher for sure. Tremendous arm strength. You get him up to the 5th parallel, he's almost 99 for fielding and arm strength. Has good arm accuracy, and he has great blocking at 89. The problem is he does not hit righties that well when it comes to power at 68. The rest of his hitting attributes are good, though, at 85 plus on his contact. Then he does have 119 power against lefties, so he could be used as a pinch hitter against left-handed pitching if you really wanted to. And he could be a late game sub defensively a catcher. Not that you really need them this year. However, Bench is coming in the honorable mentions. Barely not making the top 5. I thought about maybe putting him over the guy I got number 5 or number 4. But Bench, I got him in the honorable mentions. Another Cincinnati Red is what rounds out the honorable mentions here, and it's Tyler Stevenson, the rookie for the Reds this year, and he led all rookies on OBP at 453, as well as second in OPS at 996 in June of 2021. This card just literally came out, and he had a tremendous month. I think he's going to be a very good player. His numbers actually look better than Jazz Chisholm's numbers do when it comes to rookies that are both in the National League. I do think Brian Hayes still wins Rookie of the Year if he is optional for it. I'm not sure if he is or not. I'm not sure exactly how the Rookie of the Year works voting-wise, but Stevenson will be in that talks, I believe. And it's just one of those things where I think he's a very good player. I do think that if he gets to play first base when Votto eventually retires, I do think that Stevenson will be one of the best power hitters in the National League, especially in the NL Central. Looking at this card, he just doesn't have the same pop that some of the other catchers have, and he's not as good defensively. Therefore, he's an honorable mention. I do really like his swing, though. Cincinnati Reds getting both of their guys, unfortunately, in the honorable mentions. Let's get into the top 5. Number 5. In the 5th spot, I have Mike Piazza. And he's 91 overall originally. Obviously, I have him at +2 for his parallel already, so he's playing at 93 for me. He has no secondary positions. In his original stats, he has 89 contact versus righty, 97 contact versus lefty, 91 power versus righty, and 101 power versus lefty with 81 vision and 89 discipline. Overall, he's a tremendous hitter. His swing is a little bit hard to get used to. He does hit the ball a lot to the right center gap compared to maybe being a pull hitter. But if you don't like his swing, he's hard to play with. I personally am used to his swing. I've always liked him as a catcher because he's always been a super power catcher for me. Plus, he's a Pennsylvania-born guy. You got to love it. His fielding is not that great, though. As you can see, most of his numbers are in the 70s. And then his blocking is actually at 80 to start. He's a little bit slower for a catcher. The only reason I have him 5th and probably not 3rd on this list is because the other 2 guys that are going to be above him at 3 and 4 are switch hitters, and that gives him a little bit of an advantage. And they do hit the ball for about the same amount of power as Piazza does. Even though his numbers against righties are not that great, he does seem to struggle against them a little bit, at least for me. I like the card, though. He's obviously been my catcher for a little bit here. As you can see, I got him to that 2nd parallel. Let's move on and see what number 4 is. Number 4. Carlos Santana has taken the 4th spot, and yes, his attributes are a little bit worse than Piazza's, but he is a switch hitter, can throw right-handed, and also plays first base. And really, it's his swing. His swing makes a huge difference. He has great vision. Even though he doesn't have the best contact against the righties that you would like, he does have 97 power, then 86 power against lefties. Once again, this is my personal list, so if you think that Piazza should be higher up on the list, by all means, he could be, but Santana has a tremendously glitchy swing compared to that Piazza, and that's the real difference. The rest of their attributes are very similar. Piazza's hitting's a little bit better, as well as his fielding slightly better as well. Just the swing for Santana does it for me, and being a switch hitter, you always get that good righty-lefty, lefty-righty matchup, and that's pretty much the difference. I mean, is just his swing is a better swing, and he's a switch hitter, even though the Piazza has maybe a little bit better attributes across the board. They're not so much tremendously better that he automatically gets a bump over Santana for me. I have Santana at the 4 on my list. Let me know in the comments down below. Piazza maybe got snubbed and should be higher up on the list for primary catchers. Number 3. This is a guy that's on the list because his defense is hands down the best in the game for a catcher right now, better than the Pudge that came out. Now, there will be a Pudge card that I'm sure is better than the Weeders, like a signature series, or he'll have some sort of nasty 99 overall card. But the Weeders with 99 arm strength, 94 fielding off the top, and 95 arm accuracy is tremendous with 94 blocking. He's a little bit slow. He can play first base as an option. A switch hitter, as I think I already mentioned, but he is a very, very good defensive catcher. On top of, he actually has pretty decent power this year at 87 power versus righty and 80 power versus lefty with 83 vision. Another guy with a super glitchy swing, just like that Santana, that is a switch hitter. Now, he does not have great contact versus righties, which is a little bit concerning, but he absolutely is going to rake against lefties with the 117 contact. Weeders coming in at number 3. It's just one of those things where his power numbers were a little bit better. He probably topped this list for right now. Defensively, though, he is hands down the best catcher in the game. Number 2. Second on this list, I have the Luis Campusano that you can get from the current event that's going on right now. Is right-handed batting, right-handed throwing, and he has a secondary position of first base. And his contact's 96 versus righty, 104 contact versus lefty. He has 105 power against lefties and 77 power versus righty with 90 vision. Another guy with a great swing plane. And his defense is actually really good at 80 plus across the board, except for his reaction 73. That's what's actually giving him the nod over the Piazza, because I thought about maybe putting Piazza at 2 and him at 5. I think the switch hitters at 3 and 4 have to be there because of their swing being so good, as well as the Weeders defensively being the best defensive catcher has to come in at least number 3, just my opinion. I got Campusano, though, coming in at number 2. I think that's where he belongs. I think you could have some argument, though. I think the 2 through 5 is a little bit of a change. Personally, I think the guy you could play best at catcher, we're going to talk about after this list is over anyways, who I think should be your catcher in the game right now. But let's move on to number 1, talk about him some, and then we'll go over those 2 guys that are, like I said, extra guys with catcher as their secondary position, just so you guys know that I know they can play catcher, but they're not primary catchers. These lists are about primary positions for players, so that doesn't mean that that's necessarily the best catcher per se, but primary position catcher, if you're looking for only primary position guys, this is the list for you. Let's see who's number 1. Number 1. Taking the top spot is going to be Sam Huff's Future Stars card, 93 overalls, right-handed throwing, right-handed batting, can play the secondary position of first base. He has 80 contact versus righty, 91 contact versus lefty, 105 power versus righty, 102 power versus lefty with 54 vision, 72 discipline. The vision is a little bit low at 54, but he does have good contact at 80 plus. 80 being on the low end with 91 being on the high end for the lefties. The power is what really is the difference for this Huff on top of a pretty decent swing. He is actually very good defensively too. He's a diamond defensive catcher at 80 fielding, 90 arm strength, 84 arm accuracy, and 80 blocking. And he has 56 speed. So overall, he's like a souped up version of Mike Piazza. Maybe a little bit low on the contact versus righties and the vision. But overall, I think Huff is the number 1 primary catcher in the game. And that's really what we're sitting with here. Number 1 is Huff. I mean, let me know in the comments if you think it should be somebody else for primary catchers. Now let's talk about the 2 guys that can play catcher that should be in the discussion for the top 5. And then what I really need from you guys on this video is let me know in the comments down below if you like the format of primary position only for these top 5 lists, or are you okay of me putting maybe these next 2 guys on the list somewhere, even though it's their secondary position, but that could end up with a guy that you will see that we're going to talk about here being on the list for outfield as well. Are you okay seeing cards on more than one list when it comes to top 5s of positions? If you are, then I'm okay doing it that way. That's what the majority rules, that you want to see the actual best guy to play catcher in the game right now. I'm okay with that, but unfortunately, it's not a guy that's primary position is catcher. So let's talk about these 2 guys here. Huff is number 1 on the list currently. When I do the next rendition of this in 2 weeks, so 2 weekends from now, I will come out with a whole nother list of pitchers all the way through into the outfield, and I promise you I will do them a lot better than this time. This was the first trial run. I was trying to set up how I should do it, and then I got busy with some stuff. I'll make sure I pre-record them a little bit if I have to make sure they all come out, and I'll probably have it like just Saturday and Sunday of like 3 videos on each day of just top 5, so you guys know on a bi-weekly standard who the top 5 guys are. There's going to be obviously some repeats. You think there's going to be 5 catchers that come out that's going to knock Sam Huff off the top 5, you're out of your mind. But if we reorganize it the way I'm talking about with possibly adding one of these next 2 guys on the list, Sam Huff could get bumped down from number 1. Either way, let's talk about these 2 guys now. The first guy I wanted to mention here that has a secondary position of catcher is Jimmy Fox. He's a very good hitter. He's terrible defensively as a catcher. He's terrible defensively, period, as his primary is actually first base, can play some third base. But catcher-wise, you're looking at the numbers, and he would have a tremendous power bat at catcher. 82 vision. A lot of guys think this Jimmy Fox, before the next card we're about to talk out came out, was the best catcher in the game. They thought he was better than Sam Huff. Now, are you guys okay including this Jimmy Fox on the list possibly? Because he probably ranked number 3 on my list, or maybe even number 2 right now, depending on how you feel about it. Probably number 3 because the next guy definitely would be number 1. But let's talk about the next guy and why this is one of those things, because the next guy would definitely be on the catcher's list as well as probably corner outfielder lists. So let's see how you guys feel about it in the comments down below. So this is the guy I was talking about, Kyle Schwarber. His secondary position is catcher. He can play center field, right field, and left field. He'd probably be on a left field list and right field list, at least left field list, because he does have a good enough arm, and that's his primary position, and his hitting's way too good to not have him on that list. But he plays catcher too. I mean, he's who I'm going to have at catcher once I finish his program. He is the best catcher in the game right now, hands down. His hitting attributes are way too good to not have him play catcher, and he has a good enough arm to play catcher where I don't know what his blocking numbers are. I'd have to look them up, but I'm assuming his blocking numbers aren't so terrible that he couldn't be your starting catcher defensively. I mean, people were talking about Jimmy Smith being a good catcher. Kyle Schwarber would be that guy. He'd be number 1 on my list, hands down, other than this Sam Huff. Let me know if you want some crossover for guys with secondary positions. Where it gets real sketchy is there's going to be guys that are like shortstops or third basemen. For example, the Chipper Jones has a secondary as shortstop. I mean, I don't think he's great defensively at shortstop, but he's definitely top 5. How do you have a guy that has a bunch of power, contact, and all that stuff and decent fielding and not give him a chance at shortstop because he's not the best defensively? That's where it comes up in the air, where there'd be Chipper Jones would be on 2 lists. You probably have some other guys that would be on 2 lists as well. So I don't know if you guys want that crossover or you want just primary positions. Either way, Schwarber, by hands down, should be your catcher in the game at this point if you have him. Or you could argue the Sam Huff and have Schwarber in the outfield. But Schwarber definitely deserves a spot in your lineup, and I think catcher's the best place for him right now. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about that. I really need to know, because that's going to determine how I make the list in 2 weekends from now, which I believe will be about the 28th or so that these videos will come out again. Not the 28th. It'll be the 24th and 25th is when these videos will come out again. And I want to have lists that help you guys out the most. So let me know if that's what's the best for you guys. That's going to wrap up this video. As always, I appreciate all the support that you guys give me. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with any of your friends that play MLB The Show 21. You guys have a great day and be safe.